Welcome back to Bad Attitude C10. Alright guys, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and I've always ran B&M SuperCoolers on my transmissions, and dude, they work really well. When it came time to decide what I was going to do on the 4L lady of the truck, I figured I'd do a SuperCooler, and I still had one that we had off the Camaro, but it's kind of small, and I was like, well, I don't know. maybe I could double them up or something. So I couldn't remember the part number. It was out of the box, and I got to looking at it, and I found that there was a manufacturer name on it, and I was like, So I Googled everything and went to B&M, and I found this cooler, and when I was looking at it online, it had the same name on it, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. So we'll discuss that here in a little bit. But the cooler that I picked is almost exactly twice the size, 2 times the size of what I usually ran. So I figured that would be really good, and the amount of BTU it does and everything, it says should be great for our street applications. So the smaller one cost more than this bigger one that I bought, and I'm going to share the savings on that later. So if you stay to the end, I'm going to tell you how you can save and get one of these coolers for almost half price. So guys, when I did all the investigating and found this cooler on the B&M site of Holly, actually, I found it for $215. So that's what I opted to use, and to mount this thing, I needed to, figure out a way to get fans and brackets and everything else. So I found some brackets on Amazon that are actually made for solar panels, but I needed to enlarge the holes to accommodate our 1/4x20 hardware. And so I went on ahead and chucked them up, put them on the drill press, and started going to town drilling holes. So in the past, I removed all the handles from my drill press except the one that I was using, because they kept getting in the way when I was trying to video, and this time it kind of bit me in the butt because the position of the arm made my physical arm be in the way every time I tried to video. So I went on ahead and put one of the second handles on, that way I could get a grip on it in a different manner, so hopefully you guys could see what was going on. So during the test fit, I realized that the holes that were on the side of the fan that we added the brackets or legs to, they actually narrowed up the spacing between them. So I had to drill a secondary hole to use to accommodate for the fan. After drilling the new pilot hole, I went on ahead and used a step drill bit or a unibit to oversize the holes. That way during final assembly, I had a little bit of wiggle room. I then used the bench grinder to deburr the edges, that way it was, clean and smooth. Yeah, I know guys, there's no guards or trays on my bench grinder. My camera shut off whenever I was using the unibit to oversize the holes for the isolators we're going to be mounting our cooler with to the frame. And so I had to also drill the ones that would be used to mount the fan to the cooler. So here you see me using a little pad on the drill to eliminate any burrs, and then I threw some, I think it's a rust reformer paint on just for good measure. I mean, it's aluminum, it's not going to rust, but hey, it looks better all black. Alright guys, so these coolers I've had good luck with in the past, and when I get fans I try to get quality, so I picked up this 7-inch Spall fan, and it just has a regular flush mount brackets on it, and you can just use the push through, drawstring or zip tie style. I wanted to put legs on this and mount them to a bracket that would actually space them up. That way if anything got between the fan blades and the cooler, you can get them out without having to cut the ties and all that. I didn't take into account, the good price on the fan was because it didn't come with these mounting legs, so I had to buy them separately, and when I just kind of winged it and ordered them, I didn't measure, so if I put all 4 on the side after doing the one side with legs, the other side's kind of hung off, so it wasn't going to work. So I ended up using the brackets on one side, and then the standard flush mount, I just did it directly to the flange. So the flange itself with the standoff got it at the right height to where it was okay, and the head of the bolt that secures it to the fan wouldn't hit any of the fins on the cooler. So here you'll see where the second hole came into play whenever the leg side actually narrowed up our mounting flange location. So we're going to go ahead and install these real quick, and before we put those on, I'm going to use the holes that I drilled first with these rubber isolators. Alright guys, we're using these little 1/4-20 rubber isolators to help with vibration and flex, because we don't want to crack our cooler or anything like that. Now last year, right around the time that my appendix took a dump on me, I had gotten these sockets from Dynamic Tool, and they're pretty unique, man. They got a laser engraved, size on them, and they're also marked, and they're K-knurled. I liked it because they're K-knurled, and the damage to my left hand, there's times I pick sockets up and I drop them, or if I try to take them off, they just slide in my fingers, because I don't have all the sensation and the feeling, and I don't know how hard I'm grabbing something. So I picked this standard rail up that goes 5/16 to 1 inch, and I'm using the 7/16 today, and the K-knurl on it's really deep, and I can actually feel the grip that I get. So I'm going to test these guys out, and guys, your first order through Dynamic Tools, you get a 15% discount, so you might want to go and check them out. So I used a 1/4 inch flat washer and a nylock nut to secure these rubber isolators to the frame of the cooler itself. So when we first did our test fit, I went on ahead and chose to use a shoulder bolt with the washer to come through the bottom part of the frame. Then we have another washer and one of our spacers that I painted black just because they are mild steel and they do tend to rust. So this will give us our right spacing and our height. Now when you go to put this on, you need to be sure to put the other bolt with the washer on the side that's going to be between the cooler fins and the fan, because if you don't, you're going to take everything right back off. So be sure you insert it first, and then we put a flat washer and a nylock nut. Now guys, we're going to only fasten these to where they're snug. That way we still have a little wiggle room, and we can move them around when we place the fan on. Once we get the fan mounted, we'll worry about tightening everything up to where it needs to be. Up next, we place the fan with the arm or the bracket side on, and then we put the side that's going to flush mount down. Now, one thing that I did notice whenever I first put this on is the arms or the brackets that we slid in the slots on the fan. You can actually push the fan down and they'll slide out. I really didn't care for that fact, but I was thinking maybe once everything got tightened up, it would kind of put it in a bind to where that wouldn't happen. But you have to remember, usually these fans are mounted flush to the fins, so in a typical install that wouldn't happen. But me being me, I wanted to have a little bit of a gap, that way if any trash or anything got in between them, I could just kind of put something in there and brush it out and not have to remove the fan just to clean everything. So I went on ahead and again tightened the hardware up to where I still had some movement, but I wanted to make sure everything fit, and we'll go from there. Well, go figure, everything snugged up, and I put a little pressure on the fan, and yep, slid right down. So I was like, I gotta figure out what to do on this. First I thought about maybe super glue, then some Gorilla Glue, and then I was like, well, there is the regular mounting hole, and I guess I could slide a zip tie through it and catch the lip and give that a shot. So I inserted a zip tie and ran it around the other side and snugged it up, and voila, it appears that it was going to give enough tension to where it no longer could slide down. So I repeated this on the other side as well. I then installed an Adel clamp on my wiring harness and adhered it to the cooler using the hardware on the lower bracket that went through the frame. With the fan now completely mounted to our cooler, it was time to move forward by removing the tape for my 1/2-inch NPT ports that were on the cooler. So since these fittings that are going on here, several of them are going to be pipe thread, we will be utilizing thread sealer or pipe dope, whichever one you want to call it. Alright guys, with that done, we're going to turn our efforts over here, and I just want to tell y'all about two things. Number one is, when using AN fittings, if you'll get a decent set of AN wrenches, they're made out of the material and they're going to be soft enough to where they generally won't gall your fittings and damage the finish. Number two is, when you're using a thread sealer, you do not have to fully coat the fitting. Just put a small portion on it, and as you tighten the fitting up, it's going to roll it around and create a good sealing surface. Now, in addition to this, all the fittings that I'm going to be using are from Flow Supply, and I just want a heads up, all you guys, I do not get this stuff for free. I pay retail price. I'm not plugging it because I get a commission or anything like that. Everything that I've purchased from Flow Supply to up to this point has been quality stuff, and I like it, so I'm just sharing the information with y'all. John Goebel over at Goebel Racing Transmission wanted me to install a fitting on my inlet line of my cooler. So I got this 6AN adapter that has an 8-inch NPT gauge port, and I'm going to install an odometer temperature sensor on it. That way we can monitor the oil that's going to be the hottest oil leaving the transmission, which is directly from the converter and headed into our cooler. This will let us know what's going on. Now, on the back side of the cooler, I'm also going to put a temperature switch that will monitor temperature, that will actually operate when our fan comes on and turns off. So I'm going to go ahead and install a 6AN cap here to keep any dirty stuff from getting in our cooler. So as I just stated, we're going to put a T on the return side. These are MPT, and again, you do not have to coat the whole fitting. As you can see in the top, just a portion of the fitting getting coated. As you tighten it up, it'll completely make a good sealing surface. With the T now installed, I will use a 1/2-inch MPT to 6AN fitting that will be for our return line for the cooler oil to return to the transmission. Again, just a little bit of thread sealer, and as it rotates around, it will create a good seal. And again, I'm going to put a 6AN cap on there to keep any dirty stuff from getting in until the cooler is installed. Now, this is a bushing that's a 1/2-inch MPT that has another gauge port. Until our temperature switches get here and I find out if they send the bushings or not, I'm just going to put this in hand tight. So there you have it, our finished product. I'll just give you a brief look around, and everything looks good. Our oscillators are on, ready to go. We're just waiting for the rest of the stuff to get here, and when we get it mounted, we'll show you how to plumb and wire it. Now, on to the money savings. So here's what I got. So guys, the B&M coolers from Holley and other sites were $215. I found some for $179, and all of them had the same manufacturing name. Some said made in Mexico, some said made in Canada, but it was long manufacturing. Well, I was looking at a SuperCooler cooler, and it also was made by Long. So I went to SuperCooler's website, and lo and behold, these low pressure drop coolers that are B&M SuperCoolers, same size, same description, same BTU and everything, but the price was cheaper. I then found one on eBay, it was even cheaper. The one I ended up getting was $120 off of Amazon versus the $215 plus tax and shipping from B&M. So I basically saved $105 on the purchase of this cooler, and it's the same exact cooler, just under a different brand. Go figure. Till next time.